right, so welcome to Conversing with the Griffins. And the purpose of this, I'm going to call it show, is to, and I can't even take right now any one of my brothers seriously, but we're all siblings. And I wanted to kind of, or we wanted to kind of showcase our relationship. So many times we see dysfunctional families and their relationships highlighted, but we, all three of us, have such a unique relationship. We're all super close. We always have been. No, we don't always agree or get along, but at the end of the day, we're family and we still love each other. And so I wanted to kind of just highlight just our relationship and just how it was with us growing up in our family. So I want to kick this off with a quote. And it says, call it a clan, call it a network, call it a tribe, call it a family. Whatever you call it, whoever you are, you need one. And that quote is by Jane Howard. And I feel, family is important, and our relationship as a family is important, has always been important to us. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and introduce who we are. So my name is Tanya Griffin, and of course, I'm the eldest. And then we have...
My name is Joshua Griffin, and I am the second eldest.
My name is Ryan Griffin, and I am the third eldest.
He is the baby.
The baby. So anyway, so we're going to be talking about different topics on this show. We're each going to draw from like a cup or a jar or something like that. But for this first show, we want to talk about what it was like growing up a Griffin. And so since I was the first one on the scene, I'll go ahead and kick it off and talk about what it was like before these other two showed up. So honestly, me and Josh are only 2 years apart. So I don't really remember much of what it was like before him, but I do know that him and I were super close growing up, and we were clowns. We always made each other laugh, joking around, clowning around, and we always had fun. I remember that. I remember our dad was in the military, and so he was gone away quite a bit, but our mom, she had us involved in every single thing under the sun. We were in basketball, we were in swimming, we did bowling, we did cheerleading, flag football, ballet, gymnastics. Josh didn't do ballet, but gymnastics. So we were like in everything. And I just remember like just having family time, and we each got a chance to share different things during family time. So it was very interactive, very involved. We looked out for each other. Our parents didn't allow me and Josh to fight. Josh, you have something to say?
Nope, not my turn.
So anyway, from my recollection, we weren't really allowed to fight, and we were always made to get along, because at the end of the day, our parents always reiterated that family is important, and sometimes all you have is your family. So with that being said, yeah, that was pretty much, oh, wait a minute. So then Ryan came on the scene like decades later, and I just remember, I don't know, it was just like,
the sun came out, your lives got better.
Whoa. It was like a baby, like having a baby doll around, just like, I don't know, for me, I know Josh has a different take, but like cuddling him, and I think I dropped him one time though. But sorry about that, Ryan.
Thanks.
So, yeah, really. So anyway, but I just remember that, he was so much younger, so it was a little bit difficult because I was like off to college by the time he was just starting school. But I remember like as he got older and as we all got older, like he just kind of meshed right in, and we just, we all became just super close and looked out for each other. So anyway, I'll let Josh have the floor.
Okay. Growing up a Griffin. One of the privileges of growing up Griffin, at least Tanya and myself, we got to see our parents in their prime. There are things that I have experienced that the baby got away with. And, I mean, it'd be an episode of Poltergeist when you getting slapped with your head going around your neck with stuff. To the point where I recall thinking like, okay, brace for it because it's coming. And it never came. And I was like, what? What have you done with these parents? Like, where is the lady in her prime? Where's the man in his prime? That being said, Tanya is correct. We did get along quite well because it was required. We got along quite well. But more than that, we really didn't have any major issues. We kind of looked out for each other, that kind of thing. We were in the trenches with multiplication problems and issues and things like that, getting in trouble at the same time. When one got disciplined, the other one was not too far behind. Because a lot of times I was following Tanya into the trenches until I realized Tanya just likes going in trenches and getting in trouble.
That is so not true. It's the other way around. It was the other way around.
I didn't want to go and get in trouble. So we kind of diverged paths a bit after that. She's always been stubborn.
Now we're gonna have to get our parents involved because these are lies.
This has been stubborn. And sometimes in a good way, stick to her guns. If there's something that she wants to do and feels it's right, she sticks to her guns to do it, which is good. I just so many different scenarios and things kind of growing up, just that we kind of know what each other have been through because we've kind of lived it at the same time. Fast forwarding with Ryan and Warren, it was a blessing. I've always wanted a little brother, initially, and no, I'm just kidding. I've always wanted a little brother, so it was really cool having a little guy, to pass all my misdeeds on to train him in some levels of devilment, and then he's taking it to another level.
This is true.
Right. We got him started, and then he took it. It was like
he ran with it.
Right. It was a plant in fertile soil. So it just, I'd like to take some credit for it. Some stuff he's on his own. But overall, just cool trying, having a little brother, making sure you have someone to look out for. And that dynamic. I mean, like Ty mentioned, he's at least 11 years younger than us. So, I mean, and then his experience, I would think, is different from ours because he's had to deal with things that we've never had to deal with to the same extent. So it just kind of talks to some of the changings of dynamics and the times. I mean, comparatively, like, cassette players and those type of things now to the iPads and all that kind of stuff, just from a technology change, environment change, world dynamic change. This has been a whole lot going on that he's had to deal with that we haven't had to, and then some of the things that we may have taken for granted that are new pressures and challenges from him. Overall, I think we all can agree, growing up Black in America is just its own adventure, if you will.
Yeah.
And so I think part of the core unit of what we've been trained and instilled in when we were younger has helped us or shaped our perspective on things. Definitely a Christian background and those types of things, but has shaped our perspective of the world, each other, how we should really, work together to help each other out with stuff. Because honestly, really, like Tanya's open with, we really just have family at the end of the day. So.
Nice. Yeah.
Oh, I guess it's my turn. So yeah, my growing up experience is vastly different from you guys's. Well, first and foremost, I would say our parents finally got it right. No.
It's okay. It's okay to lie on camera.
It's crazy because it's like for me, I almost feel like I grew up an only child.
Mhm.
Because I remember growing up and hearing about the family time that you guys would spend together and things, and then I don't really remember us ever really doing that so much. I think that's why initially, before I got older, I should say hit high school, going into college, I was much closer with our cousins. They were much closer in age. We went to the same school, you know what I mean, and things of that nature. And I know that, well, I'm not quite sure if mom was working when you guys were necessarily growing up like that, but I know dad was in the military. So even when it comes down to the area in which we moved into, being Northern Virginia outside of DC, it got much more expensive. And so I know mom started working a lot more. So I feel like that's also part of the reason why I was able to get away with a lot more, because they weren't
Mhm.
as involved in my life or the way that you guys were. You know what I mean? Like as I said before, I think it was very rare for us to actually do something as a family. Most of the time, we did things as a family. For me, it was like holidays. You know what I mean? But if it was a family event, you guys really weren't there, and it was after church going to uncle and auntie's house, swimming in the pool with our cousins and those kind of things of that nature. Um, I also remember feeling a lot of pressure. It's crazy because I feel having a lot of pressure coming up after you two, because I feel like I'm just so vastly different than both of you when it comes down to like my personality and the way that I see things or my own worldview. And I know a lot of that has to do with like generational type of things. You guys are what is it, X, Generation X,
Generation X.
Generation
Hmm.
X, and me coming up as a millennial. Just that, and it's that little shift right there. You know what I mean? Me remembering growing up more so in the age of technology, things becoming much more accessible, being much more influenced in that kind of things of that nature. And then I think a mixture between that too, because I remember growing up, I would always get compared to Josh.
Mm.
Like, even if that wasn't their intention, it was always like, well, your brother is doing this, or Tanya has done this, or whatever case may be. So just like you had to get the grades. Why? Because you were a Griffin. Because your older two siblings did it. You have to be in the church and be active in the church, not only because your parents are in ministry, but because your older brother and sister are heavily involved. You have to, you know what I mean? So it was just one of those kind of things like that. And then the thing about it, I think, is just our personalities is vastly different than both of you. Both of you guys is like, as we know, I'm very outspoken in comparison to both of you. And throwing that into the mix with the way that our parents, you guys, I felt that was more of a, when they said it, it was more so, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. But I do why before I say yes, ma'am, or no. You know what I mean? And that right
Mhm.
there, spirit of rebellion and, all that good stuff that comes in. So I mean, it was very different. I think that as I got older and I found my way, I've kind of like aligned more into the way that you guys are, and I feel like our relationship got a lot closer because now we can actually have adult type conversations. I mean, because like you said before, because of the age gap, I'm like middle school and you guys are in college. Like, there's really not too much for us to really converse about. You know what I mean? I'm over here, except like me and Josh, like I feel like only because of like video games. We were really into like the video games, and I would go and sneak into his room and like play video games I wasn't really supposed to, just because they were accessible and that kind of things of that nature. You know what I mean? So we would talk about that, or anime or Dragon Ball Z and all that kind of stuff like that. Tanya, you were more so along the lines of like ministry, because you were more, I would say, more ministry minded at that point in time. So because we are more artistic in nature, I think we really connected on that. So yeah, so that was kind of my thing, I guess, growing up. It was just vastly different in that regards.
Yeah. So everything that you said is true. Like I remember, you know, you were in kindergarten when I actually started my freshman year in college. So it was a huge gap there. You know what I mean? So no, that's true. That's true. So, but yeah, I think, like you guys stated overall, and I have to add this because, it just is relevant. When you grow up a Griffin, you don't just grow up a Griffin. You grow up a Griffin as well as you grow up a Gathers. And I have to make that statement because there was so much of the Gather side of our family, which is our mom's, side of the family, that played such a vital role into us growing up. Especially, I feel like, with Josh and I, because we, military, we kind of moved around a little bit, but we lived in Georgia. They lived in South Carolina. And so we used to go all the time to visit them. Where Ryan, you didn't really have that opportunity because we lived here in the DMV area, which is, much further away. But Josh and I, we were over grandma's house all the time. And there was a lot of things that were influenced by the Gather side of the family that, you almost were like a Gather's hyphenated Griffin. You know what I mean? Like we grew up a lot around the Gather side of the family. And so their dynamic and a lot of the things that were instilled in them, kind of like transferred over to us. You know what I mean? And, but you were closer to the Griffin side, I know. And that's because the Griffins live in Richmond, which is like, not that far away. So it's a lot of different factors, I think, that played into the dynamics of how each of us grew up. You know what I mean? So everything you said was true. I'm just like so taken back at Josh because I'm like, oh, he always wanted a little brother. It's so cute.
I'll rub up on you.
I'm just like so touched by that, Josh.
Well, it was that or a sister, and I had one of those already. So it was a logical step for me to go the other way.
I can't stand you for that.
I did. While I had nothing to do with it, the Lord heard my cry and he said, "Lord, if you ever loved me, you wouldn't do two of them to me like that. You would at least think about my plight."
And not saying your butt. Oh my gosh, you love me.
No, but there's only one. It's only one. I just need one.
So what was it like for us? So how did you feel like with you and I growing up? Like you. Like, how was it like with us, you and me, just when it was just like the two of us?
Well, you were more of the trailblazer, and I would see how it fared with you to know if I wanted to go that way or not. So I think Ryan is more like you in the outspoken, why the I want to do it my way type thing to at least learn from those situations. And I'm not going to say I am not a trailblazer, but if you've already seen the trail blazed, and the repercussions of such blaze, you don't necessarily need to go the same pathway because you've already seen what happened. Again, the biggest distinction, and Ryan brought up a good point, I didn't really consider this, but that while we experience our parents more so in their prime, the dynamic of them being home and more involved in everything, to include even homeschooling us at one point, was much, much different than the experience Ryan went through with them having to work, and somewhat fending for himself, if you will. We didn't necessarily have the luxury to fend for ourselves because mom was always there. You could not quite get away with anything or sneak around or tiptoe or nothing because she was right there. And that helped us, I think, stay on the straight and narrow. Now, when Dad went to Korea, we were stationed in Korea, I was told I acted out a bit. But
oh, wait, you don't remember this?
Acting out a bit is more in the eyes of the beholder.
Okay, the beholder of the teachers, the beholder.
No, I was practically the victim most of the time. And
Josh.
what you experienced was
wait, hold on. I see how this show is about to be. I see.
It's about fighting for survival. And so in fighting for survival.
Of what, Josh? What were you trying to survive?
Life. It was crazy. It was crazy. Elementary, middle, all those things that happen in life, man. Being bullied, picked on, those types of things. You had to develop
that I will give you
a tough skin.
You were bullied a lot. I will give you that.
And so it's almost like when you've poured into the bully tank so much that you've had enough in the glass cracks, then it's hard to get the genie back in the bottle. So
how did that transfer at home though?
What do you mean how did it transfer at home?
Because you were acting out at home.
Oh, was it?
Okay, I see. We're gonna have to bring Linda Rose Gathers Griffin on an episode of this because
as the jury says, innocent until proven guilty. So
you were guilty. Dad called from Korea to talk to you.
Because he missed me. What?
Lies.
You just missed me. I get it. I would want to talk to me too.
Ryan, you weren't there, so you can't even witness what I'm saying.
Ryan, I don't even know.
Yeah, I was accused of a lot too, bro.
So yeah, see, I mean, that's what I'm saying. So, I don't know what you're trying to imply.
What y'all not gonna do on the show is try to act like y'all not who y'all really are.
I'm telling you, Earth Angel is probably my picture is next to it. I'm sure.
I think, I think if you take pictures of me as well, you will still see remnants of the halo that I came down with. Like,
yeah, the promised one. So,
oh my God, what was mom?
In all seriousness, though, I think because Dad was missing, for at least for that year.
Yeah.
I would say sons benefit from having a father figure in their life, regardless of the scenario, the scene, the age. Having that additional firm hand of guidance, I think, is really important for development, for growth, all that kind of stuff, for guidance. And without that, seems to be somewhat of a lack of covering. And so, in lack of better terms, you want to try and see how far you can go to get stuff done, right? And so, to the point where credit to mother. She was a fiery woman, and did her darndest to maintain both hats during his deployment. And likely, I wasn't there, but touched base with him probably quite often on techniques, tools, and those type of things to kind of meet the need, if you will, to do that, to include things like you mentioned, talking to me and checking on me and those kind of things. And so I think part of that piece of it, part of some of the dynamics of the neighborhood, being bullied to some extent, all that stuff led to additional anger and all those types of things that I really had to deal with, a temper and all those things that I think contributed to the overall experience during that time. Because a lot of times, if you go through stuff like that, it's really good to have someone to talk to say, okay, well, how do you deal with this? This person is doing this to me, and you're juggling that with, are you not strong enough to handle it on your own? Are you, all those type of things? What am I doing that's making me a quote unquote victim of this type of things? I think part of my personality was I didn't like really a lot of confrontational stuff. If I was summoned to a point where I had to, then yes, I would participate, but that wasn't necessarily my go-to all the time. And as a result of maybe bottling some of that in, I think that was part of the contributing factor to it being visible in other areas of life, home, other social events and those type of things. And then even though we grew up together, it's not like we had a really close-knit group of friends, because one of the downsides of being a military family is you travel a bit.
Yeah.
And so you don't really have that one friend you've known for 20 years or whatever the case is that you grew up with, went through all the schools with, all that kind of stuff. You don't have some of those same relationships.
And this is before social media and technology, so
right.
we didn't have a way to really keep up with people.
Yeah. Right. So this, I mean, like letters, maybe. I mean, and who does that? So, I mean, you did not necessarily have the same capability to keep in touch. Obviously a phone call and stuff like that. But the phones back then were. I remember the first cell phone Dad brought in was like looked like a Boss speaker. It was like, oh my goodness, what is this? And you couldn't tell us nothing. I mean, it connected with a connection I've never seen before, and and it was a brick, and it sat in the middle of the car, and you weren't to touch it. It was a speaker, like a satellite phone speaker, like it was huge. So that was that was the first like cell phone. It was crazy. But anyway, I guess what I'm getting at is. Being military has advantages and disadvantages. I think one of the advantage of growing up military is I don't really have an affinity for one place or the other. I mean, I'm pretty much, I can thrive in, I would think, whatever environment you put me in to the most extent, because I don't have those types of attachments like, oh, I have to see this building. I've seen it for 20 years or whatever. It's not that way. Where others, who have not grown up in that scenario, they have such strong ties, strong connections, and that kind of stuff. I think you see a good example of this in South Carolina with our family that have been in the same area for years, and so they
generations.
They know aunt and uncle and whoever that's been living in that same house or location for a number of years. Whereas, I couldn't tell you, I know states and where we've lived in, I know bases in which we lived in, but don't ask me anybody who lived in that location other than immediate family, because I couldn't tell you, unless it was a really good friend of mom's that we saw all the time, then those names stuck. But, you don't really build those types of relationships and maintain them based on that.
Yeah, true. Well, thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Josh. We're going to keep talking. We're going to keep conversing and dialoguing. And you're watching Conversing with the Griffins. So, till next time.
Hey.